Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hermit's Ocean, the podcast for the Reaper's Candle channel. And I apologize for being so late. I actually completely forgot that I had to go live, and once I remembered, I just automatically came on here as quick as I could. So today we're talking about body image issues, as you may have seen in the description box. And I'm just going to pull that up and give you a quick overview. Sorry. Like I said, I jumped straight onto the live stream and I did not really pull up anything else. So just give me a second here. And I'm live. We've got details. Okay, so we are talking about the physical body and the physical self. So everything that I can think of it right now that's like popular or trending or even has passed by, but it keeps on coming up as like this recycled trend, is body image, media and society's roles in self-esteem, how to develop self-confidence, different trends against different types of bodies, and feeling comfortable in your skin physically and mentally. So again, I would like to warn you that my opinions are quite unpopular or provocative. And again, I'm completely open to different perspectives during live commenting, or even feedbacks in the published comments below. So we're going to get started. And if you find that you have a different idea on my perspectives or opinions, please do make sure to leave a comment in the section below so that I can respond back to it, or even get exposed to more different perspectives on that same thing, that same topic. So I'm going to start off with the poem that I could find. Again, this is one of the poems that I had already written like a long time ago. This is probably from 3 or 4 years back. All right. I want to be like you, bluebird flying high in the sky, your feathers shining smooth. Lift me up and help me soar to the moon. Bluebird flying lightly in the air, look down and wink at me and make me realize that I too could be free. So this is the only poem that I could really find that kind of matched this whole mentality of looking up to people and looking at them in their glory, but not realizing that they had to have started somewhere. You're just seeing the ideal image or the end result, and you're kind of idolizing it, and you want to be at that position too. And the thing is that when people at that position kind of give you positive encouragement or support you on your journey, then it kind of gives you more self-confidence and helps you feel more comfortable about your own body. And we can see that in like the current trends that are going on nowadays, like people who struggled with body dysmorphia, or had different shapes of bodies that don't fit like the usual amount of clothes sizes that you find outside, or they're not the image of the ideal body in the modern world, right? And now people are encouraging them to be comfortable in their own skin and be comfortable in their own body, at the body positivity movement. But each movement has two sides to it, because it is something that is a large change, and most of the times movements talk about extreme issues. So then when you decide to kind of stand up for one side of that extreme issue, then there could be some toxic behavior happening towards the other side of that extreme issue, because of the way that people react. They kind of have horse blinders on when a movement comes into play, and they're just thinking about that movement's goal and not really considering whether that movement's goal includes other people's goals or not. And you can kind of see that with the Black Lives Matter and the All Lives Matter movement, which I will be talking about another day, for discrimination and how to deal with like teaching your kids about diversity and different cultures, different races, and how we treat human beings overall, even if they're different. in a later issue. Maybe it'll be the next episode. We don't know. But the thing is that with that type of movement, there was a backlash for anyone that was outside of Black lives, right? Not all of the supporters of that movement, of course, the police lives, but there were, on the general scale, people wanted to focus on the goal that Black Lives Matter, right? The same thing is happening for the body positivity movement, where the main goal is to focus on making larger sized girls feel comfortable in their body and not feel like they're sticking out because they don't suit or match the typical image of the average female in America, I would say. I feel like a lot of these movements are in the Western community rather than the rest of the world, because I know that there are plenty of countries in the world that prefer larger sized girls, and the thinner girls are then criticized for being too thin and being too weak, because there are certain expectations from those girls that they have to fulfill, and the body kind of shows what type of capability that girl has in fulfilling those duties and responsibilities. Also, in some countries, specifically like Pakistan, which is my ethnicity, I know that we have a culture of like, if a girl is too thin, yeah, she looks pretty, but we tell them to eat more. We try to feed them more. We try to make them happy because we always think like, oh, maybe she's not happy, which is why she's dropping the weight. On the other side, if you're like healthier, of course, it has to be like not on an obese level, but if you're like a little chubby or if you're like big boned or anything like that, everyone says you're still pretty because they still think that you're healthy. And it's kind of funny. Like over here in the West, we kind of see chubby or big boned girls and we call them plus sized, right? So just that term in itself is like so contradictory to the movement, because it basically is saying that you're not the normal size, you're the normal size plus extra, you know? So it's kind of like even the words or the labeling and the categorizing that you're using even in the movement itself is kind of discriminating against that body anyways. You know, you should be instead, I feel like, teaching kids that are dealing with body image issues, or girls who or women who have developed this sense of body dysmorphia, even if it's at a lower level of just feeling insecure in their body or having low self-esteem about themselves. You should be teaching them that how to feel comfortable in their body, not to idolize a specific type of body just because you happen to fit that body characteristic. And on the other side, in Pakistan, we call those girls healthy. We say that she has a healthy weight, which is kind of like a politer way of saying that she's a little bit more chubbier or a little bit more on the bigger side. But she's not unhealthy or obese, because then they would be taking her to a doctor to figure out if there's anything wrong with her organs or her body or anything like that, or putting her through a diet so that she can get down to a weight where she does not have trouble doing her daily duties or like even like going to school or anything like that. Because no matter how much the body positivity people want to say that you can be healthy at a bigger size, it's obesity isn't healthy. We have studies, we have proof that people who are obese, whether that's a man or a female, it doesn't matter, they both will develop like different types of internal issues with their organs, with their even their lifestyle may be limited to what they can do and how they feel in their environment, just because of their size is not normal even for like a chubbier person. Okay. So I feel like a lot of these body image issues actually develop when you're a child, and I feel like it's because of the lifestyle of just eating like unhealthy food and maybe even sleeping late, or not exercising as much, and that lifestyle kind of carries on into your adulthood, and you think, why can't I lose weight? It's because you keep on bouncing back to that original lifestyle that's been ingrained into you. And your body and brain are still in the mode of, okay, this is normal for me. So people usually say that it takes about like, what, 30 days to kind of build a habit. But then they say also that your cells and your organs are always regenerating and renewing themselves. So old cells are dying and new cells are being made. And each organ has like kind of like a life cycle where it comes alive, where it's like built up, right? And then slowly the old cells are disposed of and new cells are built into place, so that you actually have like a completely brand new organ by the end of a certain time period. And I think by the end of a 7-year time period, your organs are completely new from that the previous years that you've had, right? So I feel like even when you have a childhood lifestyle ingrained into you, I feel like it would take you still 30 days to build a habit, right? But then it takes you 7 years to actually reset your body's default mode in how it reacts to this new lifestyle, you know? And honestly, it doesn't matter if you rebound and then go back. As long as you keep on doing it, your body will still realize that it needs to be in that mode as a default instead of the first one. And that'll actually help you feel more comfortable in your body, because you'll actually be more healthier. You're going to feel more refreshed. It's that feeling like when your heart rate's pumping or you get an adrenaline rush, like when you're exercising, right? It makes you feel refreshed because your blood is pumping. It's going all over your organs, your cells, and your brain recognizes this, your body recognizes this. And that's the sensation or the emotion that you're feeling of refreshness and being in the moment, or being calm and stable and grounded. That's also um, that. So, like I said, the childhood lifestyle that's ingrained, that can also come from being too mature as a child. I know that this is on the rise, and people want to keep on blaming the media and social media and like apps and cell phones, and kids have so much more technology and exposure nowadays as compared to in before days, right? But they still had that exposure. It's just not that it wasn't like, most of them still had that little bit of immaturity or innocence when they were approaching certain subjects. So when you're looking at children kind of growing up, right? Well, first of all, it also depends on the type of household you have. Like some households are more liberal in their thinking and they want to teach their kids before anything happens, to prepare them. And then there are some households which are more conservative. And when it happens, then they want to take them into a private room and discuss everything and tell them. They might even feel awkward doing that if they're super conservative, and just kind of let the child deal with it themselves, which either side is kind of like an extreme of a situation that should be balanced. Of course, children are going to become curious. They're going to go through changes in their body as they grow up, but you have to let them know how to deal with that. You can give them like precursors to their body if you see that there are certain changes taking place or their growth is faster than other people. You have to decide based on their growth rate. So again, this comes into the whole idea that parents have to be responsible for their children. It's not just the child's fault. It's not just society or media's fault. It's not just the technology and exposure's fault. And it's not just the parenting's fault. It's a combination of everything. Of course, children are going to be interested in different things that they hear about. They ask questions. My younger cousin asked a question about like, what is a pad, right? And I didn't want to answer to her because even though she's growing, she's not at that stage yet that she would have to deal with that soon enough. If it was, then I would have told her like, you're going to go through a change where where your body's turning into a woman basically. And you're going to have to use this or other alternatives. But our family kind of prefers this. But anyways, to basically keep up your hygiene and deal with that whenever it happens, right? So it's a matter like children aren't dumb. It's a matter of teaching it based on their maturity level, based on their growth. Okay. And you can see that because as an adult, you should be aware of the body changes that a child will go through when they're going through puberty and they are growing into their body and their body is growing, right? And you have to kind of guide them on that journey. That's the whole purpose of being a parent, is that you are supposed to be the more mature one. You're supposed to be the one with information and knowledge that the child can rely on and go to for support in how to deal with this growing journey in a healthy and sustainable manner. Just like how you teach a child to walk. You see that they're trying to reach things. You're seeing that they're trying to, their size is getting bigger. They have more control over their motion. You want to make them walk. So you help them walk. You give them support. Sometimes you let them fall, but you're still there to make sure that nothing goes wrong. That's the exact approach that you need to do at this second growth period. You need to be there to provide them information. You need to be there to support them and guide them through the whole process. If you see that this child is growing a little bit more quicker than the other children have, then you want to provide them with that information before any type of emergency happens, right? If you see that this child is going a little slower, then maybe just leave it to develop naturally, right? Or if they're like at the same age, but each child has like different growth rates, you could always sit them both down and talk to them in a mature manner and explain to them both things, right? So that both of them know what to kind of expect and neither one of them feels like their relationship with their sibling or their friend is broken because they have like a disconnect between like one person being more grown up and knowing more mature information than the other child. And this body image issue can also be, like I said, it's comes down to mostly the parental decision to either encourage or influence children. So the environment that the parents create and the things that the parents teach their kids about body image issues. Like maybe they want to say that, oh, you're getting too fat. So there are some parents that go to the extreme that are very blunt and very clear cut. And they want to basically just call you out for what it is, right? But they don't give you any advice. And then there are other parents who kind of go the opposite way, where they're just like, okay, learn to accept yourself. I know you're like this, but learn to accept yourself. And that's a different extreme of kind of just accepting things as they are and feeling like you have no control over certain things. And of course, you don't have control over certain things, but it's always to a limit. After that, there's a lot of control. Most of your life is based on your control. And these things about genetics and things like that, these are mostly due to lifestyles that have been carried on for generations. So I always feel like less than genetics, it's more of like a lifestyle that was carried on for so long that it kind of, again, ingrained and embedded itself into the family lineage. And just like it came, it can also be disposed of, so that maybe you may be at a higher risk of developing diabetes because for 3 generations you guys have diabetes in your family. So you're going to obviously be careful so that you don't develop that. Or if you have already developed it, you want to be careful so that you minimize the effects of it. And then that way your future children are going to have even less effects of it or less chance of getting it. And as the generations go on, maybe diabetes won't be a part of your family anymore. So it really comes down to the parent to kind of teach their kids to not only accept their body, but also understand that they have a certain amount of control over how their body is reacting or growing, or how they react to their body and how they feel about their body, rather than imposing simply their own opinion on the way they're raising the children or making them feel about their body. Because that can then lead to later on those same children either going against it in an extreme, which is going to cause family turmoil later on, or it can cause the that child becoming a parent and carrying that influence into their own child. So it'll become like this toxic generational cycle. Now, a lot of people also tend to blame media and society's role in creating this ideal image, and the message with like Barbies was a big key thing, like I think 1 or 2 years ago before lockdown happened, and everyone was calling out Barbie on not being an ideal physical body for girls to aspire to. But I always thought that Barbie and all these other toys, they're toys. They're there so that the kids can play with and pretend things with, and then they move on with their life. And as they grow up, they gain new toys. They gain toys like telescopes, maybe, or doctor sets, and they pretend different other things, right? So I don't think you should give toys and inanimate objects such a large responsibility like that. You can give the company that responsibility, but then if you look at the company doesn't promote Barbie's image as the physical ideal of a female. The whole point of Barbie being created was to show girls that they can do and be anything that they want. And they've continued that message for a very long time. And the beauty part, everyone keeps on saying that the beauty part is like an impossible ideal to reach. But I have seen quite a few girls, even grown women, for example, even Zendaya, they all have a similar type of human body that you could see in a Barbie doll, right? And obviously, if you stretch the Barbie doll out into human proportions, she's not going to be proportioned because she's not made to be a human. She's made to be a toy, which each toy has their own like inappropriate proportions, but when you look at it as a toy, it makes sense. It fits. Okay. It's the same thing with the G.I. Joe figurines. Like, how many boys developed body dysmorphia from G.I. Joe figurines? Why is that not something talked about? It's because they weren't promoting muscular body dysmorphia. You know, they were promoting an image that boys are supposed to be strong and that boys can do anything that they want. They can stand up for justice, or they can, rule the world and run an evil society. Whatever the thing was, their image is to be fun and to pretend these things that you may perhaps aspire to be one day. The companies are trying to instill specific older values. Not that there's anything wrong with older values, but some people may not approve of that. So then there are other options for toys that you could provide your children with, which match the values that you agree with or that you want to instill in your children. Okay? So the companies don't ever promote body image issues from what I've seen. They always promote having fun or having specific values. Ever since, though, this whole idea of realism and making kids feel comfortable in reality and getting rid of the kind of the imagination part of toys and making everything seem as real as possible, you're not only seeing a rise in like children who are over sexualized or acting much more tougher than they are or trying to act way much more mature at a younger age, but you are also seeing toys that have nothing to do with fun. You're seeing toys that have literally a political message associated with them. For example, those babies that poop and pee. Like, does a 4-year-old really need to know that a baby poops and pees? Like, they could just, if you really wanted to make it realistic, just let them change the diaper. And again, this is always like kind of, from my perspective, I always think of it as like, this is like a precursor training to kind of raising younger moms. Like, I don't know how many younger moms were existing before outside of marriage. Like, and I'm talking about like younger than 16 or 17. I'm talking about like little children that have not even stepped into like high school or reality yet. Like, they are still living under their parents' roof. kids like that, they're having babies, and maybe some of them are really good at raising them, maybe some of them aren't, and they need help from their parents either way. But this whole idea of making everything as real as possible, that is going to basically give the introduction to that type of lifestyle, you know? And since we've seen all these realistic toys coming in the market, and even like certain things that look like they're for kids, but they're not, and the parents get confused whether they should allow their children to watch those TV shows or not, like Five Nights at Freddy's or Roblox and things like that, it's raising kids to be less imaginative, and it's raising kids to be less innocent at a a faster rate. Okay. um but yeah, I always thought like Barbie is my girl, bro. And I grew up with Barbie dolls, and I never we would get the black Barbie doll. I don't remember what her name was. And then we had a Barbie doll that looked Chinese, but I don't think she was. I think she was Hawaiian. And then we had a white Barbie doll. And we would play with them, and then we would put them away. And sometimes we would change their heads just to see like what the different colored bodies look like on each other. And sometimes we would make them into different types of like ethnicities. So if it was like a darker skinned Barbie doll, we would try to find we would pretend that it was from our ethnicity, because you can see more tanned people in our ethnicity, like Pakistani people. If she was like I said, the girl was Chinese or like Hawaiian, but we could turn her into a Chinese because her features kind of match. We could also turn her into an Afghani because her features also match with that. So we kind of played around, and we didn't say Barbie was always American. We would say oh, maybe she's French or German or somewhere where the features matched her thing. Or maybe we would always sometimes pretend like she dyed her hair and she wasn't actually like a white person. Like she dyed her hair blonde to make herself look more white, you know, and get those features, because there are plenty of ethnicities that have those types of features. And if you just dyed their hair blonde, they would look like Barbie. And basically, when me and my sisters were playing, we didn't think of it as, oh, we're supposed to be learning from this how we're supposed to look like and what the perfect body or beauty is. We played with it. We played pretend. We played different types of job roles in there, and then we put it away and we went about some other game that had to do with pretend and fun and imagining. And we had multiple types of I grew up with a lot of dolls that were kind of allowed you to kind of make your own doll. Like I remember it was Betty Spaghetti, I think it was. That was my favorite doll, because you could literally twist her hair into different combinations. You could change her head. You could change her entire body. Was literally disconnectable, and you could pair it up with different parts from different dolls. And I love that. Then there was another one where you could draw the face on with emojis and markers and stuff. So there was a lot of mix and matching, kind of our generation of toys kind of taught kids to be more diverse. So we had a lot more different ethnicities. We had a lot more dolls that you could kind of play around with, and their features and their characteristic traits and things like that. So now the imagination was kind of going beyond characteristic traits and job roles and their lifestyle, and it was now coming into their values. So that's what we were taught. And nowadays it's coming more into the realistic side, and this can actually be a little bit troublesome, because toys should be something simple that kids don't attach a conscious thought about. They should know that it's an inanimate object that has no effect on their life other than the game that they're playing with it. And teaching kids that this Barbie is realistic, so it's better because it teaches you what your body will actually look like. I'm pretty sure kids don't want to know what their body will look like until they actually start growing into that level. And most kids that are playing with Barbie dolls, especially nowadays, are not the age group that is having body image issues or are growing into their body or going through puberty. They're little kids. They're 4-year-olds. They're 5-year-olds. They're kids that literally just want to play and play with their older brother or sister. Most of the older kids, even starting from 8-year-old, 9-year-old, and upwards are on technology and playing video games or playing like Minecraft and into building things rather than um, in, like seeing what their body's supposed to look like or what their body's supposed to feel like, you know? And the funniest thing is that as much as they want to complain about Barbie having this disproportionate and non-idealistic um, physical body as a human, right? The LOL dolls that are like super popular nowadays, because a lot of them resemble celebrities that are popular, and that's another topic. That's like the dolls are resembling celebrities that deal with mature topics in their songs. But like, I mean, Barbie does that with Britney Spears and everything like that. So I guess it's okay to a certain extent because those kids might not be watching those things, so they won't know what the celebrities they're derived from. But they do the LOL dolls. I was making an outfit for one of my cousins' dolls because she had no clothes. It got lost. And I felt ashamed because literally the chest area was very detailed. And I don't want to say it out loud, but it was like a real human being. Literally. Not like a Barbie doll where she, like, you just see two lumps, you know? But this one actually had the physical details on it. And I was just thinking, why would they do that for a little children's toy? And if these were collector items, which I always reason out that these are collector items for grown people who want to collect dolls, just like how grown men collect their figurines. But the way that they target the LOL dolls is towards children. And most of those children are, I believe the rating is like 10 plus for the doll. And that is, again, that's the time that kids are going through their body image issues. They're growing up, they're going through puberty, there are changes happening in their body and that they may not know how to deal with. So playing with a doll that has that must be like really weird looking at it because you haven't developed into a woman's body yet. So you're gonna like question, what am I looking at here? If you're thinking from a child's perspective, because you're curious and you want to question, like, what is this, right? And that's just going to give you another exposure into early adulthood, you know. And do you really want to provide that for your child? Because this is not a mature way of teaching them that this is what grown women body look like, you know. And rather than focusing on what it looks like, you should be focusing on how they should be dealing with growing into their body, how to feel confident in their body, not does it look like the doll's body. So again, there's that hypocrisy of like where we want to talk about this message and we want to give positivity, but at the same time, the methods that they're using and the tools that they are displaying are actually doing quite the opposite. They're just making children more curious, more mature at a younger age, and they're providing exposure to a mature topic in an uncensored way, where if they don't have someone that they can ask that will provide them with a mature answer and explain it properly, they're they might get scared because kids are gonna be like that's gonna happen to my body, and or they may not know how to like deal with that. Like they'll start thinking like, oh, that's what my body's supposed to look like when I grow up, and if it doesn't, then they're going to have an issue with that. That's how your body image issues are going to develop. And I think magazines and fashions encouraging to fit in, I don't think they do that. Fashion runways and those clothes are supposed to be hanged on thin models because the focus is supposed to be on the clothes, not the models. So if the models start looking good in those clothes, like, it's going to detract from the attention of the clothes and the way that it moves. And like a lot of businessmen and a lot of people who own retail stores that may be purchasing these items are men. So if they become attracted to the female, which I'm not saying that all men do, but it's kind of like a natural disposition. Even females would become attracted and they would be like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. And then the clothing went by and you didn't even realize like what you're supposed to be focusing on and the details, right? So the way that certain industries are formed are because they have the intention of a work related purpose. But we are looking at those things from a social perspective and a physical perspective, not understanding that these people aren't trying to promote a certain body image. They're just trying to do their work. And if you listen to some of the models that work with these companies, they will say that those people who own those companies, the people who design those clothes, would love to make clothes for normal people. But it's a marketing thing. If you can't afford it, then why would they make it for you, you know? And also on top of that, like when models work with these big designers and directors and fashion companies, they will say that, yes, I have to stay fit, but that's because it's part of the job. Like, you have to be able to fit into those clothes because, again, most of the clothes that they're displaying, sometimes they're not even their body size. So they have to end up adapting their body just like an actor would for method acting so that they can do their job properly. And I would honestly prefer that if the fashion companies would just increase their size just a little bit, because of course it's not healthy to have models going up and down in their weight and their body structure like during their on seasons, just so that they can fit into a size that fit girls back when, you know. Nowadays we have taller and bigger body structures, which I can 100% guarantee that it's very hard to fit into something no matter how much weight you lose if your bones and structure is like wider and bigger. Um so again, like, I don't blame media and society for holding unrealistic expectations or encouraging them or even creating them, because a lot of the time they were created a long time ago because of a work related situation, or they are being used still because the types of people that they're trying to market to are those sizes. They're not big sizes. Um, but yeah, so it really just, you have to, like I said, like, this podcast is all about understanding the other side's perspective and kind of coming to a balance in thought and opinion, and really staying true to your intention. And I think that's what everyone needs to do. Like, if you're trying to do something with your work, you need to understand that, does it represent your values as a company? Does it match or like provide the work result or quality that you are looking for in your work, product, or service? So you have to kind of think of these things from a philosophical point of view rather than a political view where you're just seeing the top of the iceberg. You're just seeing the superficial or physical part of the action, and you're not trying to understand what's the meaning or the reason behind that action, or why is it not possible for other alternatives to take place, or if it is, what are those other alternatives that could take place that would be viable for these companies or people. And like, this also comes into feeling comfortable in your own skin and having your own ideal. So rather than looking at other people like the bluebird that's shining high in the sky and soaring up above you, you want to look at what's your ideal. Don't compare yourself to them. Just, this is what I've done, and the only thing I've ever had body issues like with is honestly just feeling comfortable in my skin. And that was because I was taught, like, as a child, to be more conservative and reserved, and stay away from boys because I'm a girl, and anything can happen, which I agree, anything can happen if you get a little too comfortable. And even boys would kind of agree with that it's quite possible to, I feel like even girls nowadays would agree that it's quite possible to mistake friendliness for flirting. And my personality is very open and very like bubbly and positive, and I tend to focus on every single person that I'm dealing with because I feel like I'm responsible for making them happy. Of course, I'm not responsible for it, but when I'm trying to have fun, I want everyone else to be joining in on the fun and having fun as well. I don't like it if someone else is sitting in the corner crying or feeling upset. I want to have them join in as much as possible. And that kind of comes back from my own experiences of being kind of outcasted in school and being the odd person out that was quiet and shy, like, which is not the true me. And I would have loved to make friends, but the friend groups kind of moved on. And that, in combination with my conservative values that were being taught at home, kind of made me feel unconfident in my personality to be with others, to share my personality and my values and myself with others in an open and communicative and confident manner. But like I've gone through a few difficult situations where I was just seeing like how when you try to be nice to other people, it kind of backfires on you and they kind of walk all over your head because they think you're a pushover. And I decided that I need to be more confident in myself and kind of stand up for myself. And so that is kind of like what I've always done for my internal emotions. But now I've decided to do it for my external actions as well. But so when I was like younger, I grew I went through puberty a little bit later than the rest of my sisters did and the rest of the school did. I was a late bloomer. And even now, like if you compare my body type to my sisters, even my younger sister, or the average girl in my grade from like my generational batch, you could see that I don't have like the typical or the average body type. I'm like tall and very thin, like I'm tall and lanky kind of, and I don't have like a big chest. I didn't have like a lot of curves when I was going through puberty. I was like kind of like a stiff board, and I was basically mostly muscles and bones and a little bit of baby fat, I guess you could say. And it kind of felt weird to me because I was like thinking always like, is this how it's supposed to be, or is this like the final result of my body? But because I've always been like a very reflective and observant person and kind of patient, and I wait it out, and I also don't tend to compare myself to others. I take it more as like a standard to measure by, but not to compare by. So I wasn't thinking, oh, I have to look like that person. Like, why don't I look like that person? I was thinking more of, is this normal, or is this healthy to look like how I'm looking? Or is this something that I am going through? Is this an individual thing? Like, is this how my body works compared to other people? So yeah, so that's how like I never had an image issue in terms of like anorexia or obesity or anything like that, because my body was like, my lifestyle was pretty good. I would sleep basically on time. I would go to school. I was pretty strong. I would exercise whenever I could, like playing sports and stuff, not on a regular basis, but maybe like once or twice a week, going on like short walks during school or standing up for like 20-30 minutes at a time, wherever I could get the activity in. Plus also I was in our household, we tend to eat more homemade dishes ever since we were children. So we had carbs for energy. We had like lentil sandwiches and minced meat with spices, like sandwiches of like our traditional dishes, just in two pieces of bread, and we had juice and water. So we lived quite like a simple lifestyle that wasn't like big on overeating, just enough so you had the energy. And we had a lot of protein in our diet and vitamins and minerals in our diet. So we had like a nice balanced diet at that time, even if we were eating less than you could compare us to right now. And so at that time, our body was like healthy, and it was kind of in that default mode of being healthy and being strong naturally and being more flexible and having stamina and all that stuff naturally because of the lifestyle that we had grown up with up until the 10th grade or whatnot. Um, so I didn't really have any body image issues because I wasn't anorexic. I was on the like barely underweight or like barely a normal weight type of BMI index, which I've always been skeptical of the BMI. Like, can you really tell if someone's underweight or overweight just because of their height to weight ratio? Like, different genetics have different outcomes. So, like, if I'm tall and lanky and thin, of course I'm gonna have an underweight BMI, especially since my body is going through puberty. So puberty is like a combination of different mechanisms in your body growing at different paces, and you kind of have to learn to just accept that, wait it out, and then see what happens. And so I didn't really consider the BMI as like the end all and be all for me. I was concerned a little bit about my health because that's always been my number one priority. I was thinking, okay, if I am underweight, what are like the potential health issues that could come from this? And I was barely underweight, so it wasn't that big of an issue. So the doctor just said eat more and sleep on time, which I did, and it was fine. And as I went on, like I said, patience and waiting it out as I went on, and I got older, by grade 12, I had increased my weight probably from, I was probably like 5'6" or maybe 5'5". I think I was 5'5" in grade 12, and I was probably 80 pounds, I think. I was 5'5" in grade 10, 80 pounds. And then in grade 12, I had like another growth spurt, and I turned into like 5'6", I believe, 5'6", and I increased my weight like by maybe 10 pounds, 90 pounds. So it the height increased because I was eating a lot more, but my weight didn't increase by that much. So my BMI was still kind of bordering on underweight and normal. And then so again, like I waited it out. I grew as I ate. And I think that's also a thing like that I believe in, that your growth doesn't just stop after you hit puberty or if you completed puberty. You know, even pregnant women say they grow like an inch in height when they're pregnant. And I think that's the lifestyle thing. If you're eating healthy, if you're exercising, you're sleeping on time, your body will catch up to the growth that you're supposed to be growing to. And the doctor always said, like, based on my BMI, I'm supposed to grow up until like 5'9" or whatever. Or no, sorry, 5'7". So I'm counting, fingers crossed, 5'7" or 5'8". That's my goal. Because that's just something that I like to aspire to, even if it'll never come true. It's not like a big goal or anything, but it's just a fun little dream to have. Um, but then in university, I think in second year or third year, I had another growth spurt after putting myself. I had been like kind of being lazy with my exercise routine. I would just go to school or sleep late, wake up late, eat like mostly carbs, and I decided that I wanted to become healthy and change my routine so I could be like how strong and stamina I was in high school. So I went, I started an exercise routine in the early mornings. I would eat like bananas and eggs and apples and things like that. And my muscle growth or like muscle gain was pretty impressive. Like 7 days of workout for half an hour each, I can still gain like a lot of like muscle growth, which is good. And that's just because, most likely because I'm straining my body after such a long period of rest, so it's not used to it. So it's going to grow obviously more quicker than if I was used to it. But I did that, and my body started coming back into shape and normal and being normal again, right? For like being the ideal figure that I always thought, like curved and like toned and like a normal, like not look too thin, lanky, and not look too big, being like just loose fat or unhealthy fat that doesn't need to be there, being there, and looking bloated basically. And that was fine. And then after university, I went on a few trips and I ate too much. And my entire lifestyle, even right now, it's like very trash. It's like going to sleep very late, like early in the morning, basically, waking up in the afternoon after 6, 7 hours of sleep, and then not really doing any type of physical activity throughout the day. And because I live in like a large family, we're actually eating a lot more chicken, which chicken has been shown to kind of give you thyroid issues and things like that if you eat too much of it. And just for females in general as well, like I would prefer to eat like a more lean meat, like goat or sheep, and fish, rather than beef or chicken, which overeating can lead to like potentially other issues, right? And that goes for anything, but I feel like chicken and beef are like the main culprits in the meat department. Um, but yeah, and I don't really eat that much anymore. If I do eat, I usually eat like a lot of rice and carbs. So I've basically become this like jiggly person. Like I'm still like 5'6.75", 5'6 3/4", something like that. And then my like certain parts of my body are like unmuscular because they haven't been being worked out. And then certain parts of my body are like more just like chubby or bloated looking because, again, I don't work out, I don't eat properly, I don't let my body rest so that it can repair itself, even with the little nutrients that it's getting. And all of this kind of leads to the end result, which I have. And I'm not going to blame society or media for it or my genetics for it, because I know that my lifestyle is trash. If I fix my lifestyle, which I did for a week, and I started going back to that normal routine of being toned, being muscled, having the strength to actually lift things without feeling tired and out of breath, and just feeling more energetic and refreshed and doing things throughout the day rather than just feeling super tired and sore everywhere and just lazing about, and not having the will to do anything. So that is a big thing, that's kind of like my journey on the body image thing. And there were points in time where, like in high school, right, I was thin and lanky, like I said, and my dad and my mom were like, a woman should have a little bit of fat on them, right? So I'm not gonna blame them for that thing, but once I got a little bit more chubbier, like I am right now they complain and they say lose some weight, like you shouldn't, your stomach looks too bloated, you look like my mom said some things that I was just like shocked, like a mother should not say that to her daughter. And she's a really nice person, and she used to be really nice, but obviously stress and mental issues and not dealing with them in a positive way or releasing them or going to counseling or anything like that, it has kind of left her in like this default toxic state where she just kind of says something without thinking about it, hurts people, especially like her children and her husband and even herself when she's outside in public. And you can't really do anything about it because she doesn't realize what she's doing at the moment. And then when she realizes it, you're just like, okay, well, the damage is done now, right? And those are some of the moments that I was just like, okay, I'm done with this. Like, I can't live in this codependent lifestyle anymore where I'm trusting my family members. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays are going through this, that where I'm trusting my family members to kind of support me and give me guidance. No, I have to, like, this new movement of like parenting yourself again is coming up, and I think that's a good idea to parent yourself again, because a lot of the times parents, especially from like our generation of parents, like our parents' generation, they don't focus on guiding the child. They're kind of focused on providing the basic needs, and they think that's the job done. Of course, they'll give you a little bit of guidance because they're not like their own parents who were literally just basic needs and done. But that guidance may come from more of an emotional perspective rather than a mature, reflective thinking where they're kind of taking your side of the topic into consideration as well, and then providing you with advice based on that situation, and not just coming at you with, well, back in my day we didn't have these problems, and like, I've gone through this problem and this is all you need to do. And they don't understand that you may be having other things that are piled onto that problem that they may have not gone through, or not in that specific combination perhaps. But yeah, so it, from my side, like, and then I had to deal with kind of feeling comfortable in my body no matter what type of size it was. And the way I did that was actually stepping out of my comfort zone and doing the things that I actually like to do. When you do the things that you like to do, when you step out of your comfort zone, you're actually going to develop more confidence. And I talked about this in my last podcast, that the more tiny baby steps you take out of your comfort zone, the more confident you're going to get, and your safety bubble is going to expand more slowly and slowly and slowly, but it won't pop because it's just expanding further. Just like how you blow air into a bubble to make it larger very slowly, the same concept goes here. You want to step out of your comfort zone very little by little, but to feel comfortable in your body, I want to apply that analogy, is that you want to do things that make you feel happy, even if they're out of your comfort zone, little by little. Okay. And stand up for your ground. Analyze your values, analyze your ideal, like, what is your body naturally like? Try to remember what it was like when you were a kid. Like, what were you naturally good at physically? Okay. Some people are naturally flexible. Like my cousin, she could put her entire leg behind her head. We couldn't do that. But on the other side, we had more, like, I had more strength as a child. I would be lifting like two 10 kg flour bags on my shoulder as a 8 or 9 year old, I believe, maybe 10-year-old even. But that's the thing that I'm saying. Like, you got to remember what's your natural disposition to physical activity. Okay. What did your body naturally look like when you were going through puberty, maybe? Okay. And then what's your ideal, like, image? And then do exercises and adopt a lifestyle that will help you develop that body. When you go in to create a gym plan, right, or a workout routine and things like that, you don't target each muscle separately and just say, oh, I want it to be big. No. You go in, you sit down with whoever the gym trainer is, or if you have your own information, you research on it, and you decide, okay, I want this size, this level of strength, this level of endurance or flexibility for this area of my body. What are the exercises that can help me do that? And then if you want to shape it, then how do I shape the body, right? You go through all this research process to kind of figure out what's the best way to attain the goal that I want. And then you go at it. And of course, different bodies are going to react to different exercise and different things differently, in the sense that because your natural disposition is different, your natural structure is different, you may look a little bit different than the next guy or next woman. But in general, that exercise is still going to be targeting those same muscles. It's still going to be providing you with that same general shape, endurance level, etc. Right? So it really, you have to think, what is your body capable of? Not what someone else's body is capable of. What is your ideal body style? not what someone else's ideal body style is. And then after that, once you've achieved that, right, what are the values you're looking to pursue when you're working out or building this healthy lifestyle? Are you looking to have a functional workout where you're doing more sports than actual like gym workouts? Or are you more interested in looking a certain way rather than just simply getting out and exercising, you know? And different sports, different exercises will help with different muscle parts. Like if you look at rugby players, their bodies are jacked, especially their legs. They look crazy big and they could probably smash your head with it. But that's because they play rugby and it's kind of like a low squatting position whenever they're running, and they have a lot of like um, it's a contact sport and it's a hard physical contact sport, without any helmets or paddings or anything like that from what I've seen. So it's not like football where you just got like the upper body built up, right? In football, in like American football, you have a lot more hand throwing and catching the ball and all that stuff. In rugby, it's you're throwing it backwards to your team player. So it's a lot of underhands, and sometimes yes, there will be overhands, but it's more of like a running sport and a bending and squatting and throwing backward sport than it is throwing forward and jumping and stretching and kind of running long distance, you know? Um, so you can just see like different types of sports will build different types of muscles. Um, the same, so you have to decide what your purpose for exercising is, and then pick a sport or pick an exercise routine that helps you accomplish that. Um, you also want to decide, okay, what is my body's natural structure? And don't think just because you're chubby that your natural body structure is chubby. There are a lot of people out there that think their natural body structure is big boned or plus size, if you want to say that. And they don't realize that they actually have a pretty thin frame underneath it. And sometimes those like you don't realize it because it's hidden and covered under all of that, the flesh, right? And sometimes thin girls will say that, oh, I'm just big boned, or I have like, I'm taller and wider. That's why, like, even if I gain a little bit of weight, I look bigger. No, that's not the case, okay? You may have a wide bone or a taller structure, right? Which is why you look wider when you lose a little bit of weight. But if you were at a normal weight, maybe like if you were at a weight that was like ideal for you, and I'm not talking about BMI and all that stuff, I'm talking about like a healthy weight where you actually feel like you have the energy and you don't look like you're dying, but you also do not look like you just sat down for a few burgers, you know, you're not bloated or anything like that. You're at a normal healthy weight, and that's going to depend on what that looks like for you. Do you look bloated at this weight? Do you look um, like flabby at this weight, or do you look too thin and too bony at this weight? You know, you kind of have to find that balance of weight for yourself. And so based on that, you want to see, okay, what does my bone structure look like? Am I actually wide boned, or am I just thinking that I have all this fat on me, so I think I'm wide boned? Um, do I actually have a thin structure, or because I've lost so much weight, I just look much more thinner? Um, what kind? Am I tall? Am I short? Am I average height? Are my bones heavy or light? And those are kind of like weird terms to use because like that's kind of a thing in that's kind of a concept in Pakistani culture. I don't know if any other cultures have it, but sometimes we will call girls that we're going to talk about the density of their bones. So their bones are heavy means that their bones are thick and like weighty, which increases their overall like pound mass. But they may not have a wide set structure, right? So like my my sister that's a year younger than me, she has a much more curvy body style, and she's of a slightly taller than average height, and she has very thin bones. Like she has very small and slender bones, mashallah, and her bones are very light. But then there are certain parts of her body where her bones are wider, and they are still lighter at those sections. So the density of her bones are lighter, but the overall um, width or height is like more average or more smaller, okay, or wider in certain parts. For me, on the other side, I'm like more taller and thinner type of body style. So my bones are heavy and they're like thick. So they're not only have like more density in them, but they're also wider and they are also thicker. And so you have to kind of look at your own body structure and decide, okay, this is what it looks like. And then you have to decide, like, this is what it actually looks like. You know, you have to be realistic and you have to approach it from a scientific point of view. Don't look at it from, does this match to what my ideal is? First, just observe and research your body, just like you would for any other thing that you were looking into. You would try to understand it first and then see what you can do to adopt it to your goal, right? And it's good to use the word ideal when you're talking about this, because if you say that it's a goal, that means that you can achieve it, right? If you say it's an ideal, it means you can get as close as possible to it. That's the whole point of an ideal. It's like that perfect image. And humans are not perfect. Humans cannot reach perfection in the literal sense, okay? Yes, we can get very close to it, but not ever to it, because then we would be gods, which we're not. So, so you have to decide you have to research your body. This is what my bone structure is like. I'm wider or I'm thinner. I'm wider in these parts, I'm thinner in these parts. My bones are a little bit denser or heavier in these parts, or overall, or my bones are lighter overall. Do I gain weight easily? Try like a 7-day workout routine, okay? And see, do I lose weight easily? Do I build muscle easily? And then just stop for like 7 days and see how quickly the weight comes back. Do I gain weight easily? Do I gain muscle easily? Am I flexible? Do I have a high stamina, average, low? Do I have high or low endurance for my muscles, for my body? What could I do before when I was younger that I can't do anymore? What has changed since that time? Like, what would I eat before when I was younger, and what do I eat now? Or maybe it's the opposite, where you were unhealthier when you were younger, so you couldn't do a lot of things, and now you've adopted certain lifestyles where you are able to do those things that you couldn't do. So what changes did you make that you are able to do what you can do now? And that could be food related, that could be exercise related, that could be mentally related or emotionally related. Like not intaking any more stress, or just going with the flow of life and being positive or anything like that, because that also plays an impact on how your body reacts, because the higher stress levels that you have, the more it'll actually store fat, and because that's kind of like putting your body into a state of, okay, we're in a stress position, but your body doesn't know why it's stressed. So your body's just kind of storing as much fat to prevent any starvation or hunger from happening, because it thinks that you're stressed, so we're going to be going through a physical stress soon enough. Starvation, hunger, deprivation of water, things like that. So it stores fat and water and makes you look more bloated than you should be, because you're just in a negative mind state and stressing your body out. But you have to look at what changes that have been made in lifestyle as well. You want to look at also what's your ideal lifestyle. What do you want to do through, like, on a daily routine or a monthly or yearly routine? Like, what do you want to be able to do? Do you want to be able to skydive? Do you want to be able to travel a lot? Do you want to be able to do marathons? Do you want to be able to play with your children for longer than 10 minutes without feeling out of breath? Things like that. You want to write down, what's your purpose for your exercise? Why do you want to do the lifestyle changes that you want to do? What do you want to do in your life? And that's going to help you decide what sports, what exercise routine you should have that'll help you in achieving those specific goals. For example, if you want to be more flexible, right? Because you're really like stiff in the joints and you can't bend down without hurting a muscle or pulling it. You have your thigh muscle gets pulled or strained every single month, and it's annoying and it hurts a lot. So you want to be more flexible, right? So then you could do something like yoga, where it's not only building your flexibility, but also your stamina and your muscles endurance by putting itself into these kind of like these simple yet straining poses where it will be putting your muscle into action, right? To hold your body up and everything like that. Maybe if your goal is you want to run a marathon, then you want to get into maybe walking long distance or jogging long distance, working on joint exercises and eating things that provide your joints with more cushioning and more your bones with and muscles with more strength. So you want to do carbs, you want to do dairy, you want to do full fat dairy, not just normal dairy, full fat dairy, cream, and you want to do beef broth or chicken broth, something that builds those ligaments up. So it always comes down to what's your goal and how you achieve that. It's never about this is what I want to look like. It's always about this is what I want to do. Now the look like part comes into it a little bit afterwards, where, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it. Now, if I do this exercise, right, you could even test it out for like 7 days. You'll see like where the body is kind of making shape, especially if you've been out of working out for a long time. And you will notice how your body is changing, right? So I did push-ups, like I think I did 10 push-ups every day for 7 days, and my lats, like I could feel the muscles in my lats behind my back. And it felt nice because it felt like it was toned. It felt like it was strong. I actually had more energy in my upper body and I could lift heavier things, which previously I was having literally a hard time breathing after I lifted it, or even during lifting it, which I didn't usually. And I'm only 27 years old, so I should not be having trouble lifting up 2 bags of groceries on each hand when I could do that. When I could do actually 3 or 4 bags of groceries on each hand without having any trouble after I had put the groceries on the ground after going up a flight of stairs. So then the ideal body image or the body look kind of comes into after you've decided, okay, this is how my body's changing with my exercise. Should I adapt it for another alternative where the shape is going to come in more? Or should I throw in like a day or 2 of shaping exercises? So where maybe you want to do marathons, but you don't want to lose your curves as a female, I'm speaking, right? Or maybe you want to do a marathon as a guy and you don't want to lose all your muscle weight. So you want to make sure that you're still eating protein. You want to make sure that you are doing, for the females, you're doing waist exercises and squats. And so you're designating 1 or 2 days in your routine to just doing maybe 5 to 10 minutes of shaping exercises, which prevent your curvature loss, right? For the guys, doing 1 or 2 days of some sort of muscle building exercise, so that exercise routine, so that you don't end up losing muscle, eating more protein along with your carbs and your beef broths, you know? So yeah, basically that's how you adjust your exercise and your lifestyle to reach your ideal image. Um, yeah, and the magazines and the fashions, the media, society, toys, all this stuff, this is all BS, okay? This has nothing to do with what you are supposed to look like. You were born a certain way, right? And I love how, like, we always think, okay, well, people were born with these types of illnesses, or people were born in this type of mental capacity, or people have this personality since they were children. But, and of course, we acknowledge that it can be influenced by exterior forces like parents and the media and society. But the general rule of thumb is that that child had an innate personality or a tendency towards certain things, and that influence just pushed them further down that path, right? The same thing happens with your body. You have a natural physical disposition, and you need to learn to understand that. And honestly, like me, I don't look at the genetic side of it. I don't look at body types and all these rules that you set yourself for to make yourself look prettier and think that, oh, I suit the ideal image now because I wore I don't know, a long striped dress instead of a short checkered dress, you know? These things are all BS. It's all about how you piece the things together and how you style them. It's never about, okay, you wore a checkered shirt. I've seen multiple different types of people that wear a checkered shirt and all of them look good because they style it in a way that the rest of the outfit looks good. It doesn't feel like the outfit doesn't match that one popping out item, you know? So you have to learn, again, it's all about balancing and combining in a way that it can achieve the goal that you want to achieve. So think of it like that. And when you're teaching your kids anything related to body image issues, you want to make sure that you are focusing on the values that you're trying to teach them. You want to make sure that you're teaching them to be comfortable in their body by asking them questions. If they feel uncomfortable in their body, if they don't feel comfortable doing something, ask them why they don't feel comfortable doing it, and then address that issue in a mature and gentle manner, which builds a positive relationship with your child, because you're now not only guiding them through this whole journey and providing them with information in an adult manner, as you should, but also your child is now going to be more willing to come to you for support and for information and for guidance. And you're going to have a more loving bond and relationship because the child knows that it can rely on this mature person. And the parent knows that its child is being taught in a mature way as it grows up. So the child will also become mature when they age. And that will be carried on to the next generations. So just keep in mind that you want to take things patiently and slowly, not too slowly, of course. That's just overwhelming and that's overthinking. But take it step by step and go with the flow, and teach your kids to wait it out, to make tiny steps out of their comfort zone, to do the things that make them happy, because that's going to make them feel comfortable in their skin, in their physical skin. The more that you kind of teach your child to hide themselves or to compromise themselves, or that to accept themselves even though other people may not accept them, the more you're instilling this fear and this conservativeness of themselves. So you want to teach them, be proud of who you are, of course, control the things that you can control, approach your goals in a organized and rational manner. Observe and research on yourself. Observe and research the tools and resources that you have, and then apply those as they apply to your child. Apply them based on their maturity level. Apply them based on the values that you want to teach them. Apply them based on how comfortable they are speaking about it. If a kid is not comfortable speaking about their body and the changes they're going through, maybe it's because they're scared, maybe it's because they're embarrassed. You should be able to pick up on that and then approach them in the way that you would approach that child, whoever the child may be. You would know better what their characteristic is and everything like that. But every single time, always calm your child down and comfort them, letting them know that you are there, that you love them no matter what, so that they do have that confidence and that support there, and they're more willing to open up to you. And then go into the mature side and in a calm and explanatory manner in simple terms, so that they understand what they're going through, what they may be going through soon, and how to deal with it. And if they need help, that you're always there to help them. So those are my opinions on body image issues, and I hope that you guys enjoy the stream. Again, I apologize for being so late and also running about 20 minutes overboard, but I hope that this podcast was helpful in advice on body image issues and kind of opened your mind or your perspective to my view on body image issues and toys and media influences and everything like that. And I hope that this advice or this guideline can help you. And if you guys have any tips on how you dealt with feeling comfortable in your own skin, or dealing with mental or emotional issues that come along with growth and growing, or even any sort of different guidance, please do make sure to leave them in the comments below, and I will look them over so that I have it for my own information and I can share it later on in other podcasts or tarot readings or with family and friends. And that way also the community knows as well that there are other people with different perspectives and we're open to all of them. All right, so I hope you guys have a curious and growing balanced life, and I want to thank you for all your support. And I will see you guys again either on Saturday for the tarot reading or on next Monday at 6 p.m. Hopefully this time I won't forget. And next week, I think we might talk about depression and suicide. Ooh, big scary words. All right, have a blessed week and have an amazing day.